In this video, I'm gonna explain the function of the gradient filter from Substance Painter. It's very simple. It just takes grayscale information and converts it to color information, similar to the gradient node in Substance Designer or color ramp node in Blender. If you have used one of those, you'll get the hang of the Substance Painter gradient very fast. Some common uses for this filter are creating directional gradients on your mesh with very easy contours to modify depending on your needs, produce layers with color information more detailed than a flat layer, useful as a base for your materials, or even set random colors to different elements on your texture. To start, we need a new fill layer with some texture information. This can be as simple or complex as you want. You can work with just a texture or procedural added to the base color of the layer, or start making a very complex layer, combining different fill effects, filters, or even painting manually. Anything is valid to create a good base for our material. After we have set our layer, the gradient filter is added from the Add Filters option, like any other filter. On the filter properties, we will find different options, being the most important ones the color quantity slider and the color selection and position. The color quantity is pretty self-explanatory, increase or decrease the color points we have available. Then we can use color picker or RGB values to select every color for the gradient, and the color position sliders to configure how they will appear. The position sliders may be a bit confusing at first glance, but it's actually pretty simple. It works exactly as an histogram. I'll put a gradient texture on the model so it's a bit easier to visualize. Basically, 0 is complete black and 1 is complete white. Each color we selected must have a different position on the histogram, and the filter will define automatically the values in between, depending on the color quantity and their position. Also, on the input transformation section, we have some options to change the blending, the balance and contrast, or the possibility to invert the gradient. Okay, now with the basics set down, some of the use we can give to this filter are very interesting. The most basic one being using it to create a base layer for your materials. For example, if I wanted to create a rust material, it's a lot more interesting to start from a layer with some color variation like this than a flat color layer. Also, if I have this wood texture roughness from Texture Heaven, I can create a base color layer for it very quickly, and this same technique will also work for masks you have created using anchor points, for example. Other way to use this gradient filter is to create gradients, as the name implies. There are other options to create gradients in Substance Painter, but I think this is one of the easiest and offers good control over our gradient. I just have to feed the fill layer with a linear gradient procedural texture and set the layer to planar projection. Then we will have a gizmo to move and rotate the gradient position, and by adding a gradient filter I can change the colors and size. This technique is very useful for stylized models, where this kind of gradient works very well. The last interesting technique I want to show is using the gradient filter to give random colors to different elements. For this, we need a texture with elements on different grayscale values. The tile generator from Substance Painter is perfect for simple patterns, setting the shape we want and then using the luminance options to set the different element values on them. But for more complex patterns, it would be better to use Substance Designer with all the options nodes like Tile Sampler or Fluid Fill give us. With this setup, I can set the gradient filter with the first color set as white for the background and then set all the different colors I want. The gradient makes a very cool looking result, and this is a technique with plenty of room for experimentation, so it's up to you how to use it to get interesting results. And those were all the most common ways to use the gradient filter I thought about for this video. So thanks for watching and have a nice day.